Have you ever found yourself wondering who actually owns that abandoned property just down the street? Or, maybe you're trying to contest an unfair tax bill, or even trace your family's historical roots. Well, what if I told you that you don't need to hire expensive third-party services to figure all this out? You can actually uncover all this info yourself, literally for free, right from your own computer. So let's dive into this explainer and unlock what is basically a real estate superpower, pulling public property records. Today, we're zeroing in on one specific, highly searched, and actually surprisingly tricky jurisdiction, Worcester County.
Okay, so here's our roadmap for today's explainer. First, why property records actually matter. Second, a tale of two Worcesters. Third, navigating Massachusetts records. Fourth, navigating Maryland records. Fifth, we'll cover some pro tips and troubleshooting. And finally, number 6, practical uses and disclaimers.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, why property records matter and how we go about unlocking this public data.
So let's establish right up front why being able to pull these records is such an absolute superpower. You got to ask yourself, do you fall into any of these buckets? Like, are you buying a home and need to do some serious due diligence? Maybe you're getting ready to fight a crazy high tax assessment. Or, hey, perhaps you're just doing a deep dive into your family's genealogy. If you answered yes to literally any of those, having this insider knowledge is absolutely essential. These databases act as the ultimate source of truth for a property's legal and financial status. And seriously, just look at the sheer amount of documents we can find online. We are talking about deeds that prove ownership, mortgages, legal liens against a property, plat maps and boundary plans, even incredible historical ownership documents that go back hundreds of years. And the best part? The absolute best part is that all of this rich, highly detailed data is just sitting right there waiting for you, 100% for free. Moving right along to Section 2, a tale of two Worcesters, Massachusetts versus Maryland.
Now, before we start clicking around and searching, we have to talk about a major geographic plot twist. This comparison highlights the massive structural differences between Massachusetts and Maryland. You see, Massachusetts operates on a very open county-by-county registry system using a portal called Mass Land Records. It requires zero registration, literally none, and is entirely free to view and download. Maryland, on the flip side, uses a centralized, state-run court database called MD Land Rec. It is heavily gated, meaning it requires a mandatory registered user account, and while viewing the records is free, there are occasionally small per-page fees if you want to print out modern documents. So yeah, two Worcesters, two completely different digital worlds.
All right, Section 3, navigating Massachusetts records using masslandrecords.com.
Let's start our expedition up in New England. Now, the crucial thing to know about Massachusetts is that the state actually splits Worcester County right down the middle into two distinct districts, the Worcester District Registry and the Worcester Northern District Registry. You absolutely must select the correct regional database for the specific town you are researching before you even begin your search. I mean it. If you don't do this first, you are going to get 0 results.
But once you actually know your district, the process is beautifully seamless. Step 1, you just visit masslandrecords.com. Step 2, select your specific Worcester district from that drop-down menu. Step 3, you can instantly start searching by the property owner's name or even just the street address. And step 4, you simply click to view and download the official deed images. It's really that easy. No account required, no annoying paywalls. The results pop up instantly, and they show you the exact electronic cover sheet with the recording date, the fee paid, and the fully scanned legal document.
Let's shift gears to Section 4, navigating Maryland records using mdlandrec.net.
Okay, so moving to the second half of our tale, let's see how Maryland builds a very different kind of digital labyrinth. Because land records down in Maryland are recorded by the clerk of the circuit court, the whole system is much more locked down. To find a deed here, you actually have to use a mandatory 2-step method. You can't just type an address into the deed database and expect it to work. So step 1, you must first access a municipal tax or assessment portal, something like the local CSS real estate portal or the state SSTAT site. Step 2, search for your property by address or parcel ID to pull up the tax record. Step 3, and pay attention because this is the golden ticket, you must retrieve what are called the LIBOR and folio numbers from that tax record. Only then, for step 4, do you take those specific numbers over to the MD Land Rec repository.
Now, when you finally arrive at MD Land Rec, you're going to be greeted with a pretty strict login interface. You do have to register with a valid email address and create a password before you can see a single document. But don't worry, creating this account is entirely free and it's totally available to the general public. Once you're actually logged in, you'll select Worcester County from the drop-down menu, and then input those specific Liber and Folio reference numbers that we dug up during our tax search earlier. Hitting Jump finally unlocks the official deed for you to view. Pretty satisfying once you get the hang of it.
Next up, Section 5, Pro Tips and Troubleshooting, plus a few insider search tactics. Because look, even the absolute best researchers hit brick walls sometimes. So first, let's demystify those bizarre Maryland terms. Liber and folio are actually Latin-derived words. Liber simply means book, and folio means page. That's it. So when the Maryland Tax Database tells you a property's deed is located at Liber 429, folio 12, it literally just means you need to look in book 429 on page 12 of the county archives. Simple, right?
Okay, now let's jump back up to Massachusetts for a minute to talk about a massive state-specific hurdle. Massachusetts actually runs two parallel land systems. Recorded land is the standard system, where regular deeds are kept in chronological books. But, and this is huge, if you search an address in Mass Land Records and get absolutely zero results, do not panic. You probably just need to switch your search tab over to registered land. This is known as the Torrens system. It's overseen by the Massachusetts Land Court, where property ownership is actually court-guaranteed and tracked by specific certificate of title numbers rather than your standard book and page. So pro tip, always check both tabs.
And hey, we really can't forget the tech prerequisites. These older government portals can be notoriously picky, so you've got to set up your browser correctly before you start clicking around. First off, you absolutely must disable all pop-up blockers. Both Massachusetts and Maryland rely heavily on pop-up windows to display those final legal PDFs. You also need to make sure JavaScript and cookies are enabled, have a reliable PDF reader installed, and, this is a big one, if you're using Maryland's system, Google Chrome is for sure the officially recommended browser.
All right, bringing it home with Section 6, practical uses and disclaimers and setting some boundaries.
To wrap up this explainer, let's talk about some actual real-world applications, because the value of this data is massive. For example, you can conduct deep, thorough due diligence on a property's lien history before you buy it. You can verify your home's square footage and land use codes to protest an unfair tax assessment. And if you own property in Worcester, Massachusetts, you can use the registry's free Consumer Notification Service, or CNS. Essentially, you register your property, and the system will automatically shoot you an email alert if anyone ever tries to record a fraudulent deed or lien against your name. It's a completely free, amazing security tool that everyone should be using.
However, as they say, with great data comes great responsibility. While these public records are free and perfectly legal to access, we always need to respect individual privacy and make absolutely sure we are strictly following all local regulations regarding how we use and distribute this public data.
And that naturally brings us to a really vital disclaimer. You must always verify the info you find through additional official sources. Why? Because county procedures and digital systems change over time, sometimes without warning. Furthermore, just remember that the digital GIS and assessor maps you find online are literally just for tax assessment purposes. They are visual references, they are not legal boundaries. A digital map never, ever replaces an actual on-the-ground surveyor or the expert advice of a qualified real estate attorney. For any complex legal inquiries, always consult the pros. So, armed with this complete breakdown of both New England's and the Delmarva Peninsula's property systems, I've got one final question for you. Which Worcester County's records are you going to explore first? Go ahead, dive in, follow the steps we covered, and start your free search today.